After a fight, you ask the wrong questions. What did you do wrong? That answer doesn't teach you anything. It's a placeholder. Most martial arts operate on a technique-first model. You learn a punch, drill a submission, spar a round. The assumption is that enough repetition will produce understanding. That model produces competent technicians. It does not produce people who understand why combat works. Understanding requires analysis. Analysis requires categories. Categories require a framework. Without that framework, you are limited to what you can feel. Your body knows, but your mind cannot explain. The 6 questions bridge that gap. They give your mind a way to understand what your body already does, and more importantly, to diagnose what it does wrong. You need a framework to name the problem before you can fix it. Your body is not a single unit. It is a collection of parts, tensions, and sensory systems interacting in real time. Most fighters think in gross terms. I threw a right hand. The first question demands more. Physical elements, which parts of your body were involved. Not just your arm, but which segments. Not just your leg, but how was it positioned. Tension elements. What level of muscle tension was present? When did it change? Tension initiated too early slows movement. Tension too late compromises structure. Sensory elements. What were you seeing, hearing, feeling through touch? Most fighters rely on vision. They miss tactile feedback from the opponent. The fighter who develops awareness across all channels processes more with less effort. Applied to a specific exchange, this question lets you replicate success and diagnose failure with precision. Biomechanics is the language of physical movement. Without it, you describe what things look like, not what they are. Spatial elements. Where was each part of your body in space at the critical moment? Orientation relative to the opponent, relative to the ground. You notice when your foot is slightly out of position, compromising your base. Directional elements. What directions were forces moving? Not just forward, but along which path? At what angle relative to your opponent's structure? You feel when you push against structure versus empty space. Rotational elements. What rotated? Around what axis? At what speed? Rotation creates power, but it also creates vulnerability. The fighter who understands these elements sees force relationships, not just techniques. You recognize when a strike lands poorly because alignment was off. Timing determines whether a technique lands or fails. You need to know not just what happened, but when. At what moment did you initiate the movement? Was it before your opponent committed or after? Did you strike during their weight shift when they could not adjust? Or did you move after they had already set their base? The sequence matters. What event triggered your response? Did you react to a visual cue or to tactile pressure? Most fighters react to the wrong cue at the wrong moment. They move when they see the hand, but the strike has already started. You need to identify the exact moment when you could have acted differently. That precision turns a vague error into a specific fix. Every movement has an intent. You do not just throw a punch, you throw it with a goal. Was your intent to create distance, close distance, or damage? Was it to set up a follow-up technique? Most fighters act without clear intent. They throw combinations because they drilled them, not because the situation requires it. You need to ask, what did you intend to achieve with that movement? Did the result match that intent? If not, why? Your intent determines your commitment level. If you intended to feint, you did not commit fully. If you intended to strike, you did. When intent and action mismatch, you waste energy and create openings. Clear intent leads to decisive action. Without it, you hesitate. You cannot analyze a fight by looking only at yourself. Your opponent is not a stationary target. They move, they react, they counter. What did they do at the critical moment? Did they shift weight? Did they change their guard? Did they step in or out? Their actions create the opportunities you either exploit or miss. You need to identify what they gave you. Did they leave an opening because they overcommitted? Did they expose a line because they reached? Or did they close your path because they read your intent? The opponent's contribution is half the equation. If you ignore it, you train in a vacuum. You need to see their patterns, their habits, their tells. That awareness turns a reactive fighter into a proactive one. The final question is not about what went wrong. It is about what you will do differently. You need a specific, actionable lesson. Not keep your hands up, But when your opponent steps in with a jab, I will parry with my lead hand and counter with a straight right. That is a lesson you can drill. That is a lesson that changes behavior. You take the answer from the previous questions: human elements, biomechanics, timing, intent, opponent contribution, and you synthesize it into one clear adjustment. You do not need 10 fixes. You need one that works. Apply it in your next sparring session. Test it. If it works, you have a new tool. If not, you refine. This is how you build a framework for continuous improvement. Stop asking what you did wrong. Start asking the 6 questions. That is where real improvement begins.